Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you watched my last video where I was installing an M.2 SSD, this is a follow-up. Today on the docket is how to install Windows 10 on a computer. First thing you're going to need is going to be a USB drive, like this one. Now on here I've already made a Windows 10 media, used the Windows 10 media creation tool to make a bootable USB for installing Windows 10. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install that into one of my USB 3 ports, and I'm going to turn on the computer. Next, when the computer boots up, well, not boots up, but when it goes to the BIOS screen, I'm going to hit delete to go into the EVGA setup. Alright, we're now in the setup. If you didn't see my last video, I have an X470 ASRock Fatality motherboard with an Amd Ryzen 5 2600 6-core 12-thread processor. This is my primary editing rig. As you can see on the screen, I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, 8x2 and dual channel. Anyway, not the point of this video. What we're going to do is go all the way over to the boot on the far edge of the screen. And right now it's set to boot off of my internal OCZ 240 gig hard drive, which is what I don't want. What I want it to boot off of, there we go, is the Kingston Data Traveler, the UEFI one. So we're going to select that and we're going to hit enter. And that's going to put it at primary boot. We'll click exit, we'll save changes, yes. Now it's going to reboot again. There we go. Okay, the Windows activation. Now, everyone has their own opinion on this. I don't run activated Windows. Other than the fact of having where you can't set the wallpaper, which there is a workaround for that. That's really the only downside to it, and you get that stupid watermark, which is fine. I can live with it. If you've already activated Windows on your computer and you don't remember the key, just click I don't have a product key. When you go to actually get to the desktop later, it will automatically activate Windows if you do have a activated copy. For now, I'm just going to put I don't have a product key. Now in this case, I'm going to install the Pro version, 64-bit, since I am running over 4 gigs of RAM. Next. The EULA. Next. Now I'm going custom, because as you can see, I have multiple drives in my computer. Now, as you can see on the screen here, drive 1 is my current boot drive. As you can see, it auto-partitioned it into multiple partitions. Drive 2 on my computer, at least listed here, is my games drive. That's my 500 gigabyte M.2 SSD. The one we want is this one here where it says drive 0 unallocated space, because it's the only one that's not partitioned. Just be careful you pick the correct drive, and if you're not sure, take out all your other drives and put in just that drive only. Next. And now we're copying files over. Basically what's going to end up happening is it's going to finish through all the... As you can see, we've completed and we're rebooting. Okay. That screen that you saw that just popped up normally won't happen. I, like I said, happen to have 2 Windows 10 installs. After I get done installing Windows 10 on this current drive, I am going to wipe out that other drive. I guess it sees both of them because they're both still technically bootable. First, you select where you're located. Where I'm in the US, so I'm going to click yes. US keyboard, yes. Skip this unless you have a second keyboard. I don't. Next, it's going to go look for your network. I only have one. It's an Ethernet network, so now if you do want to speed this part along, you can just disable the network and then just not. All right, next, personal use. Highlight it, next. Okay. Now this is tricky, but a lot of people is, I don't like giving Microsoft my information. So if you look at the lower left here, you see offline account. I'm going to click on that. It's going to throw up a fit and say sign in with Microsoft Ascend. And I'm going to put no. I want just a local account. We'll edit this part out, but basically put in your put in your username and password, and then later I will edit this out. All right, use a password. You can make this anything you want. Next, and then type it in again. Next. Good old security questions. You have to pick 3 of them. Now, normally you just enter in the 3 security questions and then move on. I've edited that out because it does contain some personal information. So, but just put it in and then click next. Good old Cortana. I'm going to decline. It's up to you whether you use them or not. Use her, excuse me. Activity history. I don't recommend it. Something new. This privacy setting, I turn this all off. Even though you're going to have a whole bunch of yellow boxes, I don't care. If there is something that turns out you do need, you can always turn these on later. I just turn everything as low to no basic, and then go from there. Then after this screen, we're getting everything ready for you. After this screen goes on, then it's going to dump you onto your desktop. Then in case, you're going to have to install your drivers and all your other programs. Now, I've already went ahead and I've downloaded all those installers on my computer already. I actually have it on an external drive that you can't see, but this drive right here, what it is, it's a USB 3 enclosure. Inside there is another SSD. It's only a little 60 gig one, but I have all my programs downloaded, so all I have to do is plug it into there, and then I can run all the installers. Or if you're like in my case, you have multiple drives, whatever drive you don't wipe out, you can take and then put all the installers on that. Run the installers, and then in the case of like my games drive, I'm going to have to wipe that drive out because the programs that are installed onto it are not installed on this version of Windows. So, yeah. Okay, and here we are at the desktop with good old Edge. And I have a potato resolution because it does not have my video card drivers installed, but that's it. You've got Windows installed. One other thing you may also want to do, first off, I always recommend this, is go in and change your date and time. For whatever reason, it's never set right. In my case, I am not in Pacific time. I am over on the east coast of the US. So what I need is Eastern time. Bada boom. And now that is the correct time. All right, that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a like. Leave a comment. I'm going to be busy installing all my programs, my drivers, and then editing this video and getting it up for you guys. All right, have a good one. Bye. All right, a little addendum to the video that you guys just saw. I mentioned in the video that there was some issues that I had. Well, I didn't really say issues, but I said there's more on this later. Well, this is the more on this later. I right-clicked on the Start button and then went to Disk Management in Windows 10. Now, I said earlier in the video that Windows does partition the primary drive into multiple options, or not options, into multiple directory or multiple partitions. Now, if you look here, disk 0 is my primary boot drive. That's the 512 gig SSD, the one I installed Windows 10 onto. And if you notice, there's 3 separate partitions: a recovery partition, a 100 megabyte partition, which I'll explain what that is in a minute, and then there's the drive C, which is the actual partition you see. Now, as you can see, it's clearly marked recovery. This 100 megabyte partition is actually your bootloader for Windows 10. The mistake I made is when I had my primary boot drive on what is now my disk 1, which is my scratch disk, which used to be my primary boot partition, it had the bootloader on it. I tried to remove it within Windows, and you cannot remove it. As you can see, when I right-click on it, everything's blanked out. If I right-click on this one, I can change things. I can't delete it because it's the primary boot, but like in here, I can delete the volume or whatever. This one, you can't do anything to. Well, what I ended up doing is I booted into Linux and using a program called gparted, which is it's a partition editor. It boots into Linux, so it was not using the primary boot drive. Boot off a USB flash drive. I deleted that, and the second I did, my system would not boot. It would just go to the BIOS screen, then to a black screen. It would not boot either version of Windows, the one I just installed or my old one. So what I did off camera that I didn't show you guys, I did completely wipe out the scratch drive, what is now the scratch drive, and then I ended up wiping out my main Windows drive after I'd gotten all my programs reinstalled. Completely reformatted it and reinstalled Windows a second time with the current Windows that you're seeing being captured here. So just don't make the mistake of doing that. Best thing to do would be, looking back in hindsight, would be for me to pull out the scratch disk, have just put Windows 10 on there, and then put the secondary disks back in. But hey, I even mentioned it in the video, and I lived and I learned. So learn from my mistakes. And again, just if you like the video, like it, get subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.